My name is Nancy Farrow, also known as Mama Lou, and I'm the founder of Epic Experience. Epic Experience mission is to empower adult cancer survivors and thrivers to live beyond cancer. I hope that as you listen to Campfires of Hope, Living Beyond Cancer, you find hope, healing, and empowerment. Through stories and education, we aim to guide those impacted by cancer, and more importantly, offer love and support to anyone out there who needs it. This is Beyond Cancer.
Father times dance through the night with the ghosts of America's mind. Well, he's still on our side, the family man's pride, and hopes we will rise once again.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail, aka Sunshine. Welcome to an episode of Keepin It Real on the Campfires of Hope podcast, where we will dig into the mental and emotional highs and lows of cancer survivorship. Today, we are keeping it real with Cindy and Leonard, and I am so excited to have both of you here. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So first, I'd like you both to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you know each other, and please, both of you, include one fun fact. So Cindy, why don't you go first?
Okay, my name is Cindy. My camp name is Smokey. And let's see, I'm 60 years old and I live in Western Massachusetts with my husband and my dog. I have 2 grown kids. And let's see, fun fact about me. After my cancer treatment, I started painting, and my favorite thing to paint are farmers and their livestock. And I have a very big painting in our local general store of a farmer with his prize-winning ox.
And when you say very big, how big are we talking?
4 feet by 5 feet.
Oh my, that is awesome.
Yes.
Cool. Leonard, how about you?
Certainly. Hi, I'm Leonard, also known as Fox. I'm 31. I'm living with my wife and 2 cats and a dog in New Jersey in a small 1-bedroom apartment. So it gets crazy. Me and Smokey are representing the East Coast, so this is awesome too.
Awesome.
I currently work for an insurance company, which is always funny to me with my diagnosis.
Yeah, really.
But they do fire insurance, which is always like, okay, it's at least out of my realm. But
right.
I do IT for them, so I do compliance and security for them in the IT realm. And then by night, pretty much I just do music as a hobby. My random fun fact, I had to think about this for a while, but it was many years ago, but I got to skate. So I love longboarding. I'm a big skater. So I got to skate the Broadway Bomb in New York City, which is you skate all of Broadway, the street Broadway in New York during like rush hour traffic, pretty much. God. It's insane. So you're dodging cars and traffic and stuff like that. And of course, my funny story is I got hit by a taxi while I was doing
Oh no.
And I was perfectly fine. I was more annoyed than anything because it was more like a tap. But I finished the race, which I was happy about.
Congratulations. That is an accomplishment. Wow. Yeah. So how did you guys meet?
We met at camp. We met at the winter camp, and yes, and it was great. And it was great to meet you, Fox.
Mm-hmm. Same. And it was great to meet Smokey because we kind of kicked it off. We found out we went through the same exact treatment for different types of lymphoma, which was I didn't think I would ever meet anyone like that, because every time I was in the hospital and stuff like that, I would talk to anyone that was going through the treatment that I had. And it was cool because Smokey loves music too, very much an artist. And I absolutely we connected over a lot of things. So it was really cool to connect, not only over a similar diagnosis and treatment, but just life itself.
Well, let's hear a little bit more about each of your treatments and kind of the similarity, despite so many other demographic factors that are not the same, right? You have some things that are very much in common, which is very interesting. So Leonard, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your kind of cancer brief story?
Sure. So in 2022, I was diagnosed with gray zone lymphoma. It was a crazy kind of story. My wife really saved my life. I was a couple months not feeling too great, slowly but surely. Any typical man will say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then I'm like barely able to breathe on my couch. My wife's like, you probably should go to the doctor. And I was like, yeah, probably. So I went. They got it. I got an X-ray done. And in America, usually I think you'd hear 2 days after your X-ray, they'll give you results. It was an hour after they gave me a call, and they're like, you need to go to the ER immediately. And they told me I had a potato-sized mass in my chest that was pushing up against my heart and had collapsed my right lung. And I was like, oh, okay, that explains why I couldn't breathe and stuff like that. But what the oncologist had told me is I got struck by lightning with my lymphoma. Gray zone lymphoma is gray zone because they don't consider it Hodgkin's and they don't consider it non-Hodgkin's. It's kind of right in the middle. And it's a very weird treatment. So it's guesswork. And I got very lucky because the one oncologist that I actually saw wrote his thesis on this gray zone lymphoma. And I mean, like in my whole world, that was mind blowing to me. I was in the right place at the right time, and I was very grateful for that. And I went through 6 cycles of chemo. It was EPOC, which Cindy is my EPOC sister, and did 6 cycles of that. And then I took a month off from that. Thought I was in the clear, but I relapsed on small mass on the other side of my chest. So they're like, all right, we're gonna do 2 more cycles of EPOC with brentuximab or something like that. It's hard to remember all these medicine names at the end of the day. And then they're like, all right, we're gonna just go straight and just nuke you with all the chemo in the world and do stem cell therapy, which was an absolute sci-fi experience, but really cool. And now I could grow a mustache, which is crazy.
Congratulations. It's the little things, right?
Exactly.
So, Cindy, how is your experience similar, different from Leonard's?
Well, I'm a little older. I'm like twice your age, dude. Almost. And so it kind of similar in that I'm kind of a weekend warrior. I had been out paddleboarding, and I was actually swimming across this small pond that we paddleboard on. And when I got into the car, I was like, and when I was paddleboarding too, I felt like a tugging in my chest. And then when I got in the car, my husband was kind of making jokes. And when I started laughing, I couldn't stop. And the jokes were just not that funny. And so I thought, something weird is going on in my chest. And then the next week, I couldn't really breathe. And and it was 2020, so it was right at the beginning of COVID. And so the woman on the COVID hotline said, honey, if you can't feel better with some home remedy, you should go to the ER. So I went to the ER, and we were there for hours and hours and hours, and they did every test possible. And then the doctor came in and said, I'm really sorry, but you have a large mass in your chest. And at first they thought I had stage 4 lung cancer. But then they discovered it was primary mediastinal B-cell lymphoma. And so it was an avocado size, not a potato. And it was attached to the pericardium of my heart and my lung.
Wow.
And I had this thing called superior vena cava syndrome, which makes you kind of look like Frankenstein because your blood is blocked and looking for alternative passages. So I had these ropey veins on the side of my neck, and my face was puffed up. And anyway, so then I ended up at Mass General, and I had 6 rounds of dose-adjusted REPOC inpatient. So that was 560 hours of chemo. I think. I don't know if you counted their Fox, but
No.
When you say it that way, that sounds like a lot of hours.
Yeah, it was a lot of chemo. Yep. And then 9 months later, I had a relapse. And so then they really dosed me with a lot of chemo. And then I had a stem cell transplant.
So really, so similar. I mean, in so many ways. So Leonard, yours was gray zone. Cindy, yours wasn't gray zone, but still they treated it in the same way because they were both a lymphoma. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a unique connection because you have a similar diagnosis and went through the same treatment? Did you guys find that when you went to camp?
Well, I have to say that when I started talking to Fox about it, he told me this thing that made me feel so much better, even though you might not think so. But he said to me, he said, Smokey, my doctor told me that I was kind of lucky that I was male, young, and that I wasn't overly thin because women who are older and thin, and what was the other one?
Female. Women.
And
Female.
yeah, people who are older, thin, and female have a much harder time. And it made me feel much better when you said that because my healing process, like Fox had his in August, and he's out there running around and thriving. And I had mine 2 years ago, and my hands become claws from chemo, And
Yeah.
so I think that the age makes a really, really big difference. And but I feel like you're my little brother. Like I don't want that to sound bad, but I feel like really proud to know you. And I kind of feel like you're my little brother who has a shot at it that I mean, we're both in remission, but I feel like you're kind of ready to go in a way that I'm not. And so, anyway,
It was cool. It was cool to see, Smokey, that like you had again, like that's why I told you that, because you had like things stacked against you. Because I liked ice cream. I gained a lot of weight through chemo because it was just stress eating and stuff like that, and then having to get a stem cell transplant. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna kill every cell in your immune system and then try to bring it back to life. And I'm like, oh my god, let's go, let's try it. And them saying like, wow, it's so good that you gained all this weight. Because meanwhile, when I was diagnosed with lymphoma, here I'm thinking I lost all this weight because I was dieting, and no, it's cancer. You lost weight to cancer. So I gained it all back. But they're like, you're at the you're perfect age for this. You're a young man, and it's good that you gained weight over chemo. And then when I met Smokey, and I'm like standing next to her, and I'm like, you're like half my size, Smokey, double my age, and a woman. I'm like, that's like literally what they told me. Like, if I was any of those things, I would have a very hard time. So I was just like, wow, I was so impressed because you were thriving at camp too, and you were really, you were doing everything. And I and I love that, because it was for me just like, wow, like I was so like fearful about my diagnosis and treatment, and even moving forward after remission, thinking if I ever had to do anything again. But it gave me such confidence to be like, wow, like if Cindy can do it, like I could absolutely do it too.
That's awesome. Well, Leonard, you fed right into my next question, because at camp we do talk about fear, right? We talk about fear of the unknown. We talk about fear of what's to come, how none of us knows what the future holds. Can both of you open up about how fear has affected you on your cancer journey? I'll let either one of you go ahead and go.
Well, for me, my cancer journey kind of started a really long time ago because my mom died of cancer when I was 8. And so that was her cancer journey, but it also became mine because I lost my mom.
Exactly.
And back in 1970s, nobody taught kids how to grieve, And so I just busied myself for like 50 years. I just raced away from fear, from grief, from everything. And I became a workaholic. And I love my kids and my family, but I buried myself in other things so that I didn't have to deal with the fear that I was going to die young because she died young. But then when I got cancer, it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And when I was in the hospital, and the dose adjusted our EPOC as inpatient. And so in some ways I was lucky because I had a really good hospital social worker. And I was in crisis because I happened to be in treatment like on the anniversary of my mom's death,
Oh,
like
gosh.
during my first line treatment, and then when I had a relapse and my stem cell transplant. And so my social worker, talked to me and said, oftentimes when people have trauma and then they get cancer, those traumas come up and you have to deal with them. And so she really helped me to think about who I was as a woman and that I wasn't going to meet the same fate as my mom. My doctor was like, look, we've made a lot of gains in cancer therapy since 1971, so I think we got you.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel much more at peace now than I did, and my mother, kind of as an angel, visited me a couple of times when I was in the hospital, and so did other relatives who had died of cancer, and so because of those things, I feel at peace,
Hmm.
probably for the first time since I was 7.
Wow.
And so I want to stay on this earth because it's a good party, but I'm not really afraid of what comes next anymore because I think I'll be surrounded by a lot of love. And
Yeah.
love continues, I think, past this earthly place.
I hope you enjoy this episode of our Campfires of Hope podcast. Here at Epic Experience, we make it our goal to serve the cancer community through our collective programs such as this podcast, our week-long adventure camps, regional programs across the country, and Thrive VR, a custom virtual reality experience benefiting patients in cancer centers. If you would like to be a part of our community of supporters, please go to epicexperience.org and click Donate. Thank you for listening to Campfires of Hope, Stories of Cancer. With gratitude, Wingman, also known as Colin Farrell, Executive Director of Epic Experience. Epic Experience is a registered 501c3 organization.
That's so interesting that you had this fear, and then when the thing came to pass, the fear went away, obviously because of these other factors, the social worker and visiting an angel. That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Leonard, how about you?
So the biggest thing for me that I've realized over, a lot of time, because a lot of my life has just been fiercely independent, thinking, oh, I got to take care of everything myself and do everything myself. And a lot of that was my treatment. Was a lot of times my wife would come in and be like, oh, like, you let me be here and stuff. And a lot of times it's like, no, I want to be alone. Like, I feel like I need to face this alone. And it wasn't necessarily the best mindset, I realized looking back. And the biggest thing for me is I was getting my eyes opened a little bit. I had joined like one call with a support group through my hospital, and it was 2 patients going through leukemia and myself, and they were talking about just starting treatment too, and I was already done with it, and they were telling me about like what they were nervous about, stuff like that. And I was like, wow, like it's crazy to hear like everyone having these same fears and same thoughts. And then going to camp especially was just like, wow, like I'm meeting all these people that had different experiences, and then meeting Cindy, who had exactly the same experience as me, and everyone joking about like, oh, I'm going to stop mid conversation because I can't remember what we're talking about because of chemo and stuff, and just those like things that were like making me cry at home because I was so frustrated with it, people laughing about it and stuff like that. It was a lot of being like, wow, like acknowledge his fear in a way and understand that it was a very difficult time, but life is very like crazy. It's very unpredictable. And for me, like that was a hard thing to grasp. And I was just like, wow, okay, like these people are living it and they're making it the best and everyone's thriving and stuff, and getting out there and doing something they love. And that was something that like I really needed to like reconnect with myself even, and definitely hearing everyone's story and connecting in those ways, because being told you're young and getting cancer and be like, oh my God, you're so young, like how are you doing this, and me being like, holy crow, like I could die right now, and I haven't really gotten to do a lot of the stuff I wanted to do in life. It was definitely something that still even cripples me with fear in a lot of ways, but
Yeah.
it's still something I set a lot of intent throughout each day to try to be like, I'm going to live every day to my fullest now, because who knows if I'll get struck by lightning again. Hopefully not, knock on wood.
Right,
But
exactly. Once is enough.
exactly. But still make sure I take every opportunity to live.
Yeah. I like that. It's like we all have these fears. The fears don't go away, but it's a matter of facing them and maybe responding them a little differently, like with laughter instead of, trembling.
Mhm.
I really like that. So I'm going to ask both of you a specific question, but if you want to jump in on the other's answer, feel free. So Cindy, do you think that our past traumas play a role in how we look at the future? And how can we utilize our past experiences to prepare us for the future?
Past traumas definitely do, but I feel like if you are able to gain a little distance and really work through those traumas, that's key. It's key to give yourself space to grieve, to work through the trauma, because it's just going to settle in your chest for decades if you don't. And so I
Speaking
feel
from
like,
personal experience, right?
yeah. And now the trauma that I'm kind of working through is just the trauma of so much treatment and just accepting myself and
Yeah.
accepting that I'm not the same person that I was 4 years ago when I was diagnosed. My body is different. I have memory issues from so much chemo, and but you know what, but accepting that is really key, because other parts of my brain have kind of opened up.
How
Like
so?
I've I wrote 2 poems this week, and I haven't written poetry since high school.
Oh, that's
And they were pretty
awesome.
good. So I feel like if you just if you allow yourself to sit with the trauma and be sad, if you're going to be sad, hopefully you have an outlet. Writing is really
Yeah.
cathartic, I think, or a counselor or a partner. But I think you need to be able to work through kind of the trauma of treatment too.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, in order to do that, I've become kind of protective of myself. Like I don't engage in conflict.
Hmm.
And so people who were kind of conflictual in my life, I had to kind of choose teams when I got sick, and those teams are still in place because
Yeah.
I'm still healing and I'm not ready to, I can't engage in petty issues or conflicts with people. And maybe it's because of what Fox said, like every day is so valuable and wonderful that I just don't have time for the small stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Surrounding myself with like positive people in my life and stuff like that. You know, I've acknowledged that conflict could be good at times, definitely, because sometimes I need a different perspective and I need someone to set me straight. But a lot of the times that conflict wasn't necessarily healthy, and it came from a negative place. And I always will think how eye-opening getting lymphoma was, because I always think it was like really at the core of me where my mass was, and I'm like, wow, it's really close to my heart. It was pushing up against my heart. And at the time of my life where I was, there's a lot of negativity in my life that came to light through my treatment, which is always mind-blowing to me. So I definitely agree with Smokey on that too.
Well, both of you had a tumor at the center of your being.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That
And we use like the potato avocado metaphor, like
potato, avocado,
avocado.
I don't eat potatoes that often anymore.
I was gonna say I am not surprised. So Leonard, how have you been able to manage your fears? I know you brought it up before I even did, so I'm guessing this is kind of a theme. So how have you been able to manage your fears of the unknown and what's to come?
So it's challenging, to say the least. It's something that I struggle with very daily, and very recently I've had like very eye-opening conversations with my wife even about it, because a lot of the times she catches me, I'm trying to catch myself more and more in this like autopilot mode where the fear has taken over, where I'm just like going each day, just going to work and then doing that and then just logging off and kind of filling my life with things that like don't really fulfill me and stuff like that. And it was very eye-opening to see, hey, like I'm losing connection with myself in a lot of ways. And the ways that I've started to manage it more and more is acknowledge that it's been a big problem in my life. See that, oh wow, like you've been like in the questionnaire, it was think of something like a fun fact about yourself. I struggled with it because I was like, wow, like I haven't thought about myself in that way in a very long time, and like think of something fun. And it was great because my wife, I'm sitting there next to my wife and I'm like, what's a fun fact about me? She's like, I'm not helping you with this. Like, I'll tell you fun facts about myself, but you got to figure this out on your own. You got to think about it. And I absolutely loved it because it was just like, wow, you're right. I really got to reflect on myself. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing for me is getting support for it. I think my physical recovery was great. I was very lucky again, like to be exactly where I needed to be in my health and life to get a good recovery from treatment physically, but the mental aspects of it are a big toll. And especially for what I've seen is people my age and especially of my gender, it's very hard to have anyone open up about stuff like this. And I have found out a lot of people in my life now are more female because they love to talk about emotions and stuff like that. I love connecting, and I'm starting to meet new people that are actually open and male too, which is huge. But I've seen like therapists about it and stuff like that. Talk therapy is amazing. But the one thing I will definitely like underline, bold, capitalize is support groups. That was like, I'm trying to really stay in touch with the support group that we even made at camp and go through the resources at the hospital and stuff too. And as I said, even seek therapists and stuff like that, any support that I could get. And that's been the biggest thing for me. And then because especially when you meet people that have went through a similar walk in life and getting to laugh about it, even like laugh about like, oh yeah, potato and avocados. Yeah, no.
Exactly.
When I was told I had a potato sized mass in my chest, I think back, I was like, my heart dropped, and I was like, oh my God, now it's just a funny story to think. And it's funny to think how stubborn I was to even go to the like urgent care to get like an x-ray and stuff, and just laugh about a lot of the past and put light in things, and just realize that like, holy crow, I went through all of that and persevered over that. And the other thing that's really helped me is keep the mindset of that. Is a lot of times I lingered on the pain of like, oh my God, I was like doing all this chemo. I was, again, like, even as Cindy said, like it was week longs in the hospital, and then stem cell, you're in the hospital for about a month. And it's, you think back and you're like, holy crow, that was a hard month. But I think back on it now too, and I think of all like the nice people, the beautiful people I met at the hospital. I think of all the beautiful people that came into my life then, and a lot of the fun that I got to have. Even I got a whole year off of work, which was pretty nice. And I like that's a conversation for another time about how healing even that was, because my whole life was involved with just work. And again, it was more of like an autopilot response of just trying to go through life. And now life's more like, hey, like you're waking up each day, like let's make the best out of today. Let's like figure out something to do and enjoy it and connect with yourself again, because you need to.
Yeah, that autopilot is a pretty effective coping mechanism, but it kind of dulls life, right? Mm-hmm. And again, if you can share those fears and learn that you're not the only one experiencing them, it kind of takes the sting out of it. So, well, is there anything else that you guys would want to share that I haven't asked you about?
I just want to say that laughing every day is pretty key. And when we were at camp, I have to say that Fox had this really infectious, deep belly laugh. And
absolutely.
It brought joy to everybody. And so thank you for that, Fox. And also, I feel like it has keeping things a little bit light and laughing with your care providers, your family. I feel like that actually adds years to your life. And so it is one thing that I was reminded of for sure.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree. Like positivity is huge to surround yourself with, laughter especially. Like I love to laugh, and hearing everyone comment on my laugh at camp just like really was like, wow, I really need more of this life. It was like a sign always to me, because I was just like very depressed at the time, very full of anxiety all the time, not laughing as much as I needed to. And I was like, wow, okay, like I'm meant to laugh. This is awesome. And, just always staying in connection with yourself was something big I learned too. Like I lost a lot of contact with my musical side, and just hearing how Cindy's like painting and writing poetry and stuff, that's awesome, because it's like something how I connected again. And it's great to be writing music again. I love playing my guitar again. It's like finding a new love again, and it's been awesome. And then just again, I'm very lucky to have my wife by my side, who has been an amazing partner to me and really has stuck through a lot and a lot of fear, and seen the definitely dark sides of me, but always is making me laugh. And even when we've had like such a big disconnect, always just at the end of it just being like, hey, like let's laugh about this, let's like think of something funny, let's take care of you and stuff, you're going through a lot. And holy crow, finding people like that in your life, especially friends and family, keep them, like hold on to them tight, because they're very, very awesome to have.
Yes. Thank you both so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your vulnerability. Fear isn't something we like to talk about. It's kind of one of those things that, like you said, Leonard, for whatever reason, it's embarrassing, there's shame. So we don't talk about it. We pretend it doesn't exist, but the fact is that we all do. So I appreciate you both talking about it.
Thank you
And
very much.
for the rest of you, thank you for keeping it real. Until the next time we gather around the campfire, keep living beyond cancer. Thank you for listening to this episode of Campfires of Hope, Living Beyond Cancer. For more information about Epic Experience and our programs, or to donate, please visit our website at epicexperience.org. Music for this podcast is provided by Moonshiner Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us so we can share our story with more people. Also, be sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts so you'll know when new episodes are released. We hope you come back and join us for our next episode.
Father times down.